Hello, gathered friends. This is Spider, and welcome back to another Bionicle review. And today, I'm taking a look at Gali, Lewa, and Kopaka's combined form, the Toa Kaita of Wisdom, Wairuha. At least I think that's how it's supposed to be pronounced. I don't know. The name is never actually spoken aloud in the series, so I'm not 100% sure on the pronunciation. But according to the Bionicle Wiki, that's how it's supposed to be said. So hopefully it's right. Anyways, now this is usually where I would take the time to look at the packaging, but because this is a combined form of 3 other figures, it doesn't really have one, so moving right along to the articulation. So we'll start at the head here, and unlike all of the standard Toa, this one's actually got neck articulation, which is quite nifty. But yeah, it's got a ball joint at the neck, so you can look up pretty far, look a little bit down, just my side to side, can look all the way around. So that is quite nice. This arm can't really move on its own without getting into the gear, so I'll cover that after I'm done with the articulation. But it can move at the hand, and can also move here at the hand. It's very weird construction, but it works, I suppose. This you can unclick, so you can move that around if you want. I just leave it clicked into place. The hips are also mainly gear functions, so I'll cover that later. You get very interesting knees, so you get like kind of a knee bend here and then a knee bend there, so you kind of just use those in tandem to get it to stand. And then you get the foot, which can move a little bit. I guess you can't really, you can't really get much of a tilt out of it on that much. I guess you kind of can. You just gotta know how to move the limbs. And that's it for articulation. Yeah, it's very finicky. You can't really move it around all that much, except for the gear functions. And since we're done with the articulation, we can move on to those. So we'll come at the back here, and unlike the other standard Toa, which just have one, this big old guy has got 3 of them. So you get this one, get this one for that arm, so you move that around. You get this one for this arm, move that around. Then you get this one for the legs. You can make them move, and they can kind of hold their position. It's pretty cool. Oh, that works is that this ball is connected to them, and so this piece kind of holds onto it, so it adds a bit more friction, so the legs can kind of hold their pose a bit. The arms can hold their pose a little less. This one is fine. This one's kind of loose. It just depends on how much grip the pieces you have. So yeah, you're not going to get this thing into any dynamic poses, but really it's just meant to be set on a shelf and look impressive, which it does. Speaking of looks, let's get into the details. So here we have the upper torso, and actually, you know what? Before we move on any further, let me just change one little thing here. I'll just pop off this standard mask and swap it with this silver mask. Yeah, there we go. Now it's looking like it's supposed to. Alrighty. Now we can move on. So we got the upper torso here. And you got the nice silver mask. But you do have to get this separate. That does not come with any of the 3 figures that builds this thing. But I think it's worth it because it does look quite cool with that mask. And at the head, we do use Gali's head, which I think looks very nice. Those yellow eyes look very, very nice. In this figure, you get Gali's claws for the chest here. You get obviously 3 torsos building up the main torso. Yeah, this whole thing, for one thing, you get a tiny shield, which is very small in this form. And you got Lewa and Kopaka's weapon for the other arm. And then down at the legs. Yeah, hang on, let me see if I can't move these arms out of the way so we can see better. There we go. So you got the legs, which are made up of leg and arm pieces of the other Toa. You got Lewa and Gali's feet for the, well, feet. And then you got the back of the figure, which not a whole lot going on here, just, you know, the different gears and stuff. So, yeah, that is pretty much it for the details. And I do think it looks cool. I mean, it's kind of a mishmash of different colors, so it can look awkward, I imagine, especially to someone who is not familiar with what this is supposed to be. So maybe it's just nostalgia or just the knowledge of what this is supposed to be that makes me think it looks cool, but I do think it looks kind of, it's kind of cool. Anywho, on to the size comparisons. So to start things off, as always, here it is with the LEGO minifigure, the Pack of Destruction minifigure Mothra, the Pack of Destruction minifigure Godzilla. On to some more relevant size comparisons. Here it is with the original Tahu from 2001, just to get an idea how it scales with your average Toa. Here it is with the Bandai 12-inch Final Wars Godzilla, just to see how it compares with something else big. And then finally, here it is with their counterpart, the Toa Kaita of Valor, Akamai. And my oh my, these two do look very nice together. And I do have to say, I do think Wairuha's weapons are a bit more impressive looking than Akamai's, because it's just got a tiny sword in comparison to them and a couple of heads. So, yeah, I do think their weapons do look a smidge more impressive. Now that we're done with all that, it's measuring time. Almost couldn't fit that in the camera. So get the measuring tape set up against them, and they are a little under 11 inches tall. Although it doesn't look like that on camera. It looks like they're only 10.5. But yeah, believe me, that's just the angle of the camera. In reality, they are almost 11 inches. They're pretty dang big old figure. So, that is pretty much it for the Toa Kaita of Wisdom Wairuha. And overall, I do think it's kind of cool. But much like Akamai, it's not great for playing and is more so meant to just be a display piece. Or at least that's what it works best as. And if you do have the 3 Toa to make it, the original Gali, Lewa, and Kopaka, I do recommend that you build this combined form at least once. And also, I do think a really cool thing is that you don't have to, like, try and find or look up instructions to build this. The way the instructions to build it are in the instructions for the Toa. It's the back half of the instructions is just how you build the combined form of the standard Toa. I think that is very nice. I am glad they included that, so you don't have to like go out of your way to try and find how to build this thing. It's built into the instructions of the standard Toa. Very nice. Very cool. But yeah, I do like it. I do think it's cool, especially as a Bionicle fan. It's very cool to have this, and standing next to their counterpart Akamai, it makes them look just, just that much more cooler. But yeah, not great for playing. Even though it does have some gear functions built into it, it's very flimsy. It's also got such tiny, tiny arms. So, yeah, playing with this thing can be kind of a struggle. But it does look cool. Now, there's one more thing I want to talk about when it comes to this character. And this doesn't have much to do with the actual figure itself, more about the lore of the figure. And that is, I always thought it was kind of odd that this is the Toa Kaita of Wisdom, and yet it doesn't include Onua, who is often regarded as the wisest Toa, or at least of the original 6, he is. So it's like, why is he not part of this group? Why is he with the Toa Kaita of Valor? I always thought that was kind of odd, especially since you got Gali and Kopaka. Those decisions make sense. They're both smarter, more on the intellectual side, kind of Toa. But Lewa? What's Lewa doing here? Like, he's like, not to say Lewa's stupid or anything, not at all, but he's more the type of guy who will, leap into action and then think of a plan afterwards, Act first, think second, That's kind of Lewa's type of thing. So he doesn't really work with wisdom. I don't think of Lewa when I when I think of wisdom. But I have a theory as to why this might be. Why they would swap them, why Onua would be with the Toa Kaita of Valor and Lewa with wisdom. And I think it's to balance things out. Because if wisdom was just Lewa, Kopaka, and Onua, it might be like too, how do I say, like too smart and not enough. It won't have enough willingness to act, if that makes any sense. Like it'll just kind of sit there and try to think things through instead of actually acting, spending too much time pondering instead of actually, getting into action. And Akamai has Onua, so it's not just a meathead. It's not just all action. It does have some knowledge to them. So I think Lewa and Onua were added to their respective Toa Kaitas to kind of balance them out. So, Akamai isn't just all action, it has some knowledge to him. And Wairuha isn't just, a big old egghead. They have some, they got a bit more warrior spiritness to them. If that makes any sense. I don't know. That's just my theory. I am basing this off of nothing but my own personal interpretation. I have no idea that that's what they were actually going for, or if Lego was just combining the different ones together and that's just how it ended up. I don't know. But anyways, I've been blabbering on long enough. That's it for this review. Hope you all enjoyed. See you later. Sayonara. Bye.